In three, two, one. What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. I'm your host, 34, and tonight we have Phil Q in the building. How you doing tonight, Phil?
I'm doing pretty good, Jen. How are you? Sorry, 34.
Nah, don't worry. Oh no, secret sauce. It is all good. It is all good. I've been trying to change that on my Instagram too, like with my first and last name, but since that was my personal account before I turned it into the brand account, I can't get it off. So people will always know my real name, but it's all good. I'm doing all right, Phil. It is a Monday, or is it a Monday? It is a Monday. And you know, for a lot of folks, Mondays are hard. I don't know for you, but for me, it's always a good way to kind of like set the tone for the week. You know, just a way to frame it so it's more positive than negative in my mind. But yeah, man, it's been easy going. How about for yourself? How's your Monday going?
So far, so good for a Monday. Mondays are usually, you wake up, you have a whole week ahead of you, but that could also be a positive thing. Like you're just ready to kick it out of the park. No, that was a bad reference.
It's all good.
I'm just a little nervous. My bad.
Take your time, man. No worries. I think you're gonna find as we go through the interview, I'm a pretty easygoing person, and no judgments from me. So feel free to be yourself, man. It's really, I try to make it as comfortable as possible for you. But nah, I got you. You feel like you're more of a weekday person or a weekend person?
I feel like when it comes to weekday versus weekend, I feel like I'm a totally different person. Like for weekdays, I'm like the professional Phil where I will get you the reports super quickly. But as for the weekend Phil, that's the person you see on stage usually. That's the presence that I always try to bring. Because usually my performances are during the weekend. So the weekend personality is basically my music personality, while my weekday personality is my day job personality. So I'm kind of it's kind of like having a superhero identity, but both ways.
I got you. I definitely understand. At work I'm Jan, and on this show I'm 34. So definitely feel you on that. And I also, my first dream was to be a musician or a rapper, and always like having different alter egos for different vibes of a song. If it's happy, I'm one with my rapper names. When it's a sad, serious song, it's another rapper name. So yeah, I definitely feel you on that. But yeah, I just want to thank you again for stopping by. Like we said, it is a Monday. It's tough, but definitely appreciate you helping me start my week off pretty strong. And yeah, for the folks out there, definitely appreciate your time as well. For the folks out there who are unfamiliar with the flow of the show, we start off with a warm-up. After the warm-up, we'll cool down with an icebreaker. After the icebreaker, we'll turn to the twist of the interview, which is the Wheel of Fate, where we'll spin the wheel. Whichever number it lands on, that's how the conversation will go. And then after that, we'll finish it out with some closeout questions. Sound good to you, Phil?
I'm intrigued. Let's play.
All right, for sure, man. That's funny. I don't know how many people think of this as a game. Like for me, it's a conversation, but I had to gamify it a little bit so it could be fun, not just us talking. Yeah, man.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying conversations are fun, pretty good.
I feel you. Well, before we start it all off, my first question for you is, how have you been? You've been doing well. You've been doing great. How you been lately, man?
Oh yeah, thanks for asking. I'm doing pretty well. Like I started a new position this year, but I'm also, most importantly, I'm releasing my new EP, 1 year in the making. It's called Supernova. I've already released 2 singles in advance called Heaven and Dream. So those 2 are already out in anticipation for the Supernova EP. So it's been fun. First of all, like I get to see all that work culminate into something really beautiful, because it's been 1 year in the making and I finally get to perform it. So it's definitely just mind-bogglingly awesome.
I got you. Would you say it's just 1 year in the making? Is this your first EP, or is it you've come up with a few ones before?
Yeah, I released a couple singles before, but this is the first, I would say, full-length project, even if it's not too big. Like it's not a full album, but I've always wanted to release a project like this, and I'm happy I get to.
I got you. I normally look forward to an artist's first album just because I think it's more than just, even for you, I think you might be selling yourself short because I think, your first full project might be your whole life in the making kind of thing because it's that journey, it's that inspiration that came through the entire life that came into this first project for yourself. And yeah, that's something I always admire. Like, I'm a struggle rapper fan, so I like it when I hear the first mixtape or the first album that a new artist comes out with, because I always feel like this is their journey, their struggle up till it got to this point. And then after that, sophomore albums, especially if you're mainstream, I don't want to say it gets weaker, but the journey is different because your story becomes different after you've made it, or after you feel like you've reached a certain milestone. So for you, how long would you say, like, when did you start your journey singing, and then where it's at now? That's where I feel like that's how many years it's been in the making.
That's a very good question. So, long story short, I started playing piano when I was 6. So ever since I was little, I would play instruments, just piano. And then while I was 8 or 9, that's when I first started, performing for real, and that scared the living hell out of me. But afterwards, I started singing at around 10 or 11 at choir and with my mom's karaoke machine. And then fast forward to high school, I started creating my own songs. I started playing other instruments like guitar, ukulele, anything you could find in the music room. I always tried to, experiment with. And at 16, that's when I started producing my music. That's when I started writing songs. So it wasn't until 8 years later. So I spent those 8 years while studying in school, developing my craft in producing and writing and singing. And then 2020 comes along, and that's when I really wanted to start releasing my music. That's when I wanted to showcase what I was really made of. That's when I wanted to make my stamp as an artist. And since 2020, it's been a crazy, crazy journey. Like, it's definitely something I didn't expect to go through, but looking back, it was definitely a necessary journey for me as not just an artist, but also as a person to go through, because being an artist is really tough, but it's worth it because you get to express yourself openly. You get to invite people into your head, basically, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think artists, especially the great ones, allow themselves to be supremely invulnerable when it comes to their music. And I don't know, for you, did you ever get that feeling where you listen to a new song and then it's either the music or the lyrics that make you almost tear up? I don't know if you ever get that feeling, but it's because for me, it almost feels like I could have wrote those words, or I could have, went through the same thing, and the lyrics just hit me differently. But for you, has there ever been an artist that kind of evoked that same emotion for you, where you're like, damn, that could have been something I could have came up with because it just hit on the money? You have an artist like that for you?
There are so many artists. For Miguel, Janae, those two artists definitely really hit home for me. When I listen to their music, I'm like, damn, their music is so, I would say, just real. So not there, it's energetic, but in a different way. Like, because when I listen to music, I get so inspired by it nowadays to just write or to create something really similar to it. Like for example, Janae Aiko's While We're Young. That song really hits home for me and for a lot of people because it's just about escape. It's about you. It's about enjoying it's about like acting like you're back in your 20s. Like it doesn't matter what age, you get to act like the person that you are. Like, that type of music I love to listen to and just escape to. And that's the type of music that I want to create for people as well. I want to create a music of escape, music of serenity, of love. And also I write a few songs of mental health too. So like in summation, like Miguel, Janae, Daniel Caesar for sure, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Michael Jackson definitely. I mean, I'm probably one of the biggest Michael Jackson fans you'll ever meet. John Bellion. I love how I love how Timbaland produces. I've seen how Timbaland and Pharrell. I've seen their creative process. That's what inspires me. So it's not about me wishing that I created something like that. It's me asking myself how I can create something like that.
I got you. All right, boss. We could go on about being an artist and music, but I do need to get us to the warm up. So here we go. Let's go. Let's get a little warm. My first question for you in the warm up is, what would you like the audience to know about you? I know you've mentioned a few things already, but is there anything else you just want people to know before we start digging in deeper?
Wow, that's a very good question. I guess I just like people to know like what's going on inside my head sometimes, because sometimes it's hard for me to express myself. So the best way to express myself is through music, whether I'm feeling love, whether I'm feeling happiness or pain or sadness. It really just depends on the mood.
Mm-hmm. I got you. Do you have an alternative way? If it wasn't through your music, do you feel like you has like a plan B to express yourself?
Like my plan B, like, because I always express myself through my music, but if I'm not able to express myself, then I would just take it out in the gym. Like I would just take all the anger out in the gym.
I got you.
Like, yeah, I feel like music, because there are so many ways through music that I can express myself.
I got you. My second question for you in the warm-up is, how would you like to be honored? You know, if there was a way I could express the energy you possess, what sort of act could I do? Let me know if you need more clarification. Sometimes people trip up on this question.
If I would want to be represented as the person who could do it all on stage. Like I love like when it comes to me performing, like I don't just stick to one thing. I don't just sing. I also play piano, guitar. I would even create beats on stage too. Like I would mix it up. I would get other artists to come with me on stage to perform with them. Like it's all about me just doing everything on stage and being as inclusive as possible, for sure.
I got you. Do you feel like really comfortable on stage now? Since I think you mentioned earlier you started performing at such a young age, so I can't help but imagine all that experience has gotten you to a point where you just, you can get up on stage to a crowd and just be able to work it. Yeah, do you feel comfortable on stage?
Oh yeah, like I feel like I'm at home when I'm on stage, like because I used to be super nervous as a kid, but now I feel like I'm just talking to the audience. Like when I sing, I'm just talking to the audience. That's why my music, that's why I cherish my music so much, just because it feels like I'm just having a conversation with the audience.
That is dope, man. I never got to that point. When I was on my music journey. I always wanted to. Every time I stepped on stage, I tried to act like I was having a conversation, but I don't think I had the charisma yet or had the experience to really get the crowd engaged with what I was saying. So it really just felt like it was a one-way conversation at certain points. But that's what's up, man. I definitely got to see you perform live at some point. And you mentioning that you like to do everything on stage, it reminds me of, like, I don't know if you ever seen Anderson .Paak in person.
Yo, not in person, but he is a really amazing artist. Like I get some inspiration from him too.
Yeah, man. Try to catch a show if you get a chance, because he's one of those dudes. He'll do the drums, he'll do the guitar as he's rapping or singing or just going all over the place on stage. I don't think I have that in me. that energy that people get when they're on stage. It almost feels reverse, like it drains me. So that's why I had to kind of like let it go and do something different. But yeah, man, for sure. You have any shows coming up soon, so people can see you in action?
Let's see. Right now, I have a big show coming up in May. It's called R&B Nights. It's in Sacramento. I'm gonna start promoting that along with my Supernova EP. But other than that show, for the most part, I think I'm gonna take a break from doing shows, just to focus on the EP and focus on work. But I'm still gonna do shows for sure.
For sure. And hopefully one day, if I ever have my my real studio, I'm gonna try to invite all my guests who are musical. You know, just do a little set if you're open to it. My last question for you in the warm up is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you know yourself?
Ooh. If it was a 10, then I wouldn't be learning anything new about myself. Like, cause I would give myself around a 5. Like,
Okay.
because the more I learn about myself, the more that I realize I don't know anything about myself. Because when you learn something new, like you look back and you think, oh, I never knew that. So, but I always want to be in this mode where I'm learning more, I'm constantly taking in information. So, like, because of course, you're never too old to learn new things, of course.
For sure. What would you say is the last thing you learned about yourself, where you were like, oh, that's me, I can do that? Or, you know?
Ooh, the last thing I learned about myself is that I have limits. Like I have limits sometimes, like even on stage. Like, because I did a show yesterday. It's called Vibecella. It was a super dope event. We had a lot of amazing artists coming on from the Bay Area, and we were just showcasing our talent, like not just musicians, but also vendors and artists, and so many creative people coming together. And I felt like I can handle the entire thing, like, because I was also doing sets with other amazing artists as well, and that was an extremely dope experience. But once it ended, I got super beat for sure, and so that's when I realized I did have limits, and that's when I realized I wanted to push them even further.
I see, man. I feel you. I'm the same kind of person who likes to try to do it all and do everything. But people always tell me, I gotta just be aware. And like, I don't know if you have a team that you work with when you're on stage, like if you bring a band up or anything like that. But yeah, man, I mean, if I know you're not looking for advice, but when I hear somebody that's like myself in that way of trying to do everything, we definitely need help sometimes. We definitely need to like slow down sometimes. But disregard what I say, man. Just do you, and I'm sure you'll do just fine.
Oh, that's pretty solid advice, though. Yeah, like especially as upcoming artists, you want to know for upcoming artists as well, like including myself, you want to know your limits as well. Like, you want to know, of course, you won't be able to do everything. You'll be able to do a lot, but there's no shame in asking help for asking for help, of course.
I hear you, man. But that's also a skill. That's also like something I think a lot of people need to work on. As I'm 33, and when I talk to people around my age, it almost feels like that's a lot of people's issue, is to ask for help, or just showing that you can't do it all. And I don't know where that came from. I don't know if it was something where in my generation, how we were raised, or the messaging that they gave us in school. But a lot of people want to do everything by themselves, and it's really hard to like unlearn that. That's something I need to unlearn for sure. But yeah, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I got you. You have anything else to add?
Like, just adding on to what you were saying about like how hard it is to ask for help. Like, for sure, maybe it's a culture thing, maybe it's a pride thing. Like, I know sometimes for me it's a pride thing, because sometimes I'd love to do everything on stage, and I guess because I wanted to show people that I can do everything. It's a pride thing, it's an ego thing sometimes. But once I started to ask people for help, like for my music, to mix, to master, to market, like, I felt a lot of weight I felt a lot of weight being taken off, and it's just a really good feeling. Like, yeah, I guess once you let go of pride, once you let go of that that um that that thing that was built inside your head, yeah, it's definitely super helpful.
No, for sure. And I think as you were saying that, it made me think about how I would phrase it. But I honestly think that was the American dream that they sold me as a kid. It's like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and just work hard and have a clear goal. Things are gonna like happen for you. They never say, try to build a team. They never say, you should reach out and be persistent and like, not exchange goods, but basically if someone's gonna help you out, you should be out there helping other people too. But yeah, I feel you on
Of
that.
course. Oh, actually, I have one more point if we have time.
Oh, go for it.
Like, there was actually this really good interview from Arnold Schwarzenegger. He said that there was no such thing as a self-made man because, of course, he put in all the work, being Mr. America, being the Terminator, being the governor, but he had a lot of people help him along the way, and there's absolutely no shame in that. Like, it's actually perfect. Like, it's actually what we need. So when he said there was no such thing as a self-made man, that hit me really hard.
I feel it. And I didn't hear it from Arnold first. I heard it from Justin Timberlake, I think. But he was like, I think it was some interview, but he was telling the person asking was like, Justin Timberlake is a machine. Like, I'm not Justin Timberlake, but just Justin Timberlake's a machine that a lot of people put a lot of effort and work into creating, so we could present this product who is Justin Timberlake. I'm like, damn. But it makes a lot of sense because that's the personality that we know. That's who we see on stage making music. I don't know Justin personally, but I wonder, because for him, his awareness is like you talked about being a weekend Phil versus weekday Phil. Maybe for Justin, that's the same thing. It's like two different people, which, I wish we all had the chance to get to know our, what's it called? Our heroes or people we just look up to through the mainstream media. But a big part of this podcast too is that I just want to know, Philip versus R&B Phil. I just want to get to know you as a person. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. All right, dog. I think we reached the end of the warm-up. About to move on to the icebreaker. So here we go.
Let's do it.
And let me ask you, would you rather do a this or that or a word association?
Ooh, which one's tougher?
I think this or that is newer, so I think it throws people off a little bit more. If you're cool with that.
All right, this or that. Let's do this or that.
This or that. And as always, I'm going to dig in a little bit after you give me your answers after the 34 seconds. You have 34 seconds to get as many as you can, but no pressure. It's just to
Let's go.
Add a little fire to the flame. But here we go.
Ready.
In 3, 2, 1. Fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction.
Underestimated or overestimated?
Underestimated.
Second chance of love or second chance of your career for your career?
Second chance of love.
Group hangout or one-on-one hangout?
One-on-one hangout.
Growth or security?
Growth.
Hero or anti-hero?
Anti-hero.
Show or tell?
Show.
Education or experience?
Experience.
Last one is ambition or comfort?
Ambition.
For sure, man. Thank you for playing. One of the ones I did want to ask you was, it was hero or anti-hero? You went to anti-hero. Why is that?
Like, because when you said anti-hero versus hero, I instantly thought Goku versus Vegeta. Okay. I think I'm more Vegeta because I have a lot of flaws, but despite my flaws, I always try to do what's right. Like none of us are perfect, for sure. Like, we have our flaws, but despite our flaws, we still do what we can with what we have.
For sure, man. I think for me, I'm a big hero person, love comic books, love everything Marvel, DC comics and everything.
Yeah.
I did not appreciate the anti-hero until I got way older though, right? Like, I start realizing, and maybe that's just how the stories were made. It's like they won't tell you about the villain's backstory until you're like a lot later. But yeah, anti-hero I think is just misunderstood, because at the end of the day, I think everyone's thinking they're doing the right thing, right? So if I see a villain acting out in a certain way, through their experience, for some reason, they think that they're doing the right thing. But I feel you on that. Yeah, I was definitely more of a Goku kid though, just because he was the Superman of Dragon Ball Z. And then I believe, what did you say for group hangout or one-on-one?
Oh, one-on-one for sure.
Why one-on-one?
I guess because I've always I've always loved deep conversation. Like I've always loved talking about stuff that isn't usually talked about. Like, of course, there's the hi, how you doing? How's the weather? Like I always wanted to get past that and ask the big questions like what like what challenge do you want to face every day? Or like, yeah, I just like deeper conversation. Like also don't think I have enough. I don't think I have enough energy for group hangouts, like just because there's so much going on and because I've always been more of an observer than someone who immerses in group chats. Like, I guess that's just I guess that's just how I am. I'm just more of an observer, and I like one-on-one conversation. I just like, chilling and having a good time. No need for like a huge amount of friends or like a lot of people in one room just to have a good time.
No, I hear you, dog. As you can tell, I definitely lean towards the one-on-one conversations more as well. I don't know, group hangouts. Like I try to give people my full attention when it happens, like when we're conversating. When it comes to group hangouts, I notice that a lot of people want the mic. I don't know if you ever noticed that, where like, we'll be in a group, but then one person tells a story, and then boom, another person grabs the mic and kind of tells a story, and like, I don't know why, and I don't think it's done on purpose, but I think people don't get enough one-on-one interaction. So then when they're in a group setting, they try to build that connection like it is, but it for me, it comes off as like, oh, like the time is just filled with someone else talking. And I mean, I'm an observer as well. In a group setting, I'm way more quiet and I'm just listening. I still ask questions, but that's all it's really stuck to. But in a one-on-one setting, I do feel more comfortable opening up about like my side of the opinion, or my thoughts on whatever subject we're talking about. And I had one more thing to say about it, but unfortunately I forgot. It's all good though.
It's all good.
Yeah. Let's move on. Let's get to the twist of the podcast, which is the Wheel of Fate. You see it pop up a little bit right there. And just a heads up, anything too deep, something you don't want to talk about, feel free to pass. And I could always make it a little bit easier, because some of these questions are hard. And, I want to see where your comfort level is at. But your first number is 7. And this one is, what is the toughest thing to admit about yourself?
Ooh, toughest thing to admit about myself. I would say that I'm a perfectionist to a fault. Like sometimes I would want everything to go perfectly as planned. Of course, I'm a spontaneous person as well, but there are times, like especially during my music, when I would want something to be a certain way, and I would spend, because my single Supernova, I spent a whole like 9 months perfecting. Dang. And because I was such a perfectionist, like there were so many phases that song went through, and I did not rest until I got the exact right instrumental, the right lyric. And so I feel like I'm a perfectionist to a fault, because sometimes I spend too much time on one thing, and that's what I'm trying to work on myself. And also presence. Like sometimes I have trouble like keeping my mind focused on the moment. Like sometimes I would think about many different things at once, and sometimes it's so overwhelming that like what I'm doing at the moment gets negatively affected. Like for example, my work sometimes gets negatively affected, and that's what I'm trying to change about myself.
I got you. I want to touch on the perfectionism, but where do you think that comes from? Like, do you think that was something from, this is where I like to ask if it was nature or nurture. So was it something you feel like you got from your family, or something that just came out of, product of your environment? Maybe there's a lot of people at the time who really wanted perfectionism out of you, and you felt like you had to be. So nature or nurture, where do you think that falls for you?
I think it would be nurture, like, I guess because one really big factor was some of my piano lessons. Now, don't get me wrong, I had really amazing teachers, but sometimes I like sometimes I was taking piano lessons, and sometimes I would have to do a specific song extremely perfectly, otherwise it's bad. And so that's something that I taught myself. It wasn't something that my piano teacher taught me. It's somehow something I taught myself, that if it wasn't perfect, it wasn't good. And so I think that's where my perfectionism came from.
I got you. And then as far as, your, I guess, the challenge you have with focusing, where do you think that comes from? I know for myself, like, I think of myself as a creative. I don't know. You could ask my friends, but for me, I like to daydream. I like to really like think outside the box. What I've noticed as I gotten older, it's getting worse. And almost to a point where I want to kind of ask my doctor about it. Like, can I test for ADD or like, just anything that has to do with focusing, because I feel like it's gotten worse. But yeah, so for you, what have you tried to kind of like, get you back into the zone, as I would say?
Like, to get myself back into the zone, I guess I never really tried anything like as far as medication, but I did try therapy.
Mm.
Like I tried to talk about my worries and um all of these thoughts in my head playing out. Like sometimes I would try to talk about them. It worked for a time, but not so well. I tried meditating just to I do meditating like to a specific song, just to picture in my head all of my thoughts floating around in front of me, and then just being content with it. Like, of course, there are all these things that I have to focus on, but I also try to focus on things one at a time as well. Because I realized if I try to knock them all out at the same time, that's when it doesn't get the best effort from me.
No, I got you, man. That's it definitely still something I'm working on. I feel like at work, I'll have a task in front of me, and then I'll remember like, oh, I need to do something for something else, and then I'll open up the tab, start working on that. I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta get back to what I was just working on. But it happens so much throughout the day, man, and I'm just like, this can't be healthy.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
All right, I gotta try meditation too, man. Well, you mind giving me the secret sauce? Like, what song is it that you meditate to?
Ooh, there's this song called Resonance, RESONANCE, Resonance by Home. It's basically like a nostalgic, calming synth song that I can play for 10 hours straight and I would never get tired of it. Like, it just calms my mind. It just takes me out of reality, I would say, but it gets me alone with my thoughts. I don't know what it is about that song, but it's just super nostalgic. And when I meditate, I don't like sit in a crisscross or do anything like that. Yeah. You can even do something like sleeping. Like, you could just stay in a sleeping position, staying in a relaxed position, and just close your eyes and think. That's how it was taught by my cousin.
I got you. And now we know. Residence by Home, HOME. For sure. Definitely go check it out after this podcast.
I'll send you the link afterwards.
Right on. Gonna give the wheel another spin. So that wasn't too hard, right? Number 7 wasn't too hard for you?
That wasn't too bad.
Okay, for sure.
Give me a challenging one.
Oh, we'll see. Number 20.
Number 20.
Here we go. It is, when was the situation, or what was the situation where you didn't get the help you needed?
The situation where I didn't get the help I needed. There were so many situations where, like,
just what you feel comfortable talking about,
Like, there were so many times where I didn't get the help that I needed. Like sometimes I would, when I was in high school, like, I never really had a solid friend group to rely on. And so I would just hang out with whoever accepted me. And so sometimes when I would ask them to hang out, or with them just to be with me or be there for me, sometimes sometimes I couldn't rely on them. Like so that's when I taught myself to enjoy my own company. I guess that's where my love of being an observer comes in. Like, cause I never really got to have that support group um, growing up. And so, oh, good, very good example. I used to be in a confirmation and Holy Spirit. It's like a phase when you're a Catholic and you're a teen and you go through like confirming that you're a Catholic basically. Like it helped for a time, but even within that organization, like there's nothing wrong with the organization, but I still felt alone. Like
Mm,
as much as they encouraged inclusivity, as much as they included or as much as they encouraged friendship, of course, like I don't feel like I really got that as much as other people did.
I got you, man. And I definitely understand about the I'm confirmed as well. So and
Yo,
yeah, we making it, man. We
we
making it
made
up there.
it.
Everybody else, I don't know about y'all. But no, I got you, man. I happened to do it I think 8th grade year, so when I was 14. And I went to Catholic school, K through 8. So we did the whole, all the sacraments, first communion, and we finished it off with a bang with confirmation.
Let's go.
But yeah, did you have to do the retreat thing for that too? Like, I don't know if that was something you guys had to do. We went camping, and like, it was just us and the cohort that was getting confirmed, and we read letters from our parents at like 14 about, how big of a moment this was, and and did you have to do something like that with the org?
Yeah. Yeah, we did those a lot. Like I miss those. Like I also spent a few years as a leader for confirmation as well.
Got you.
Um like you those were the times when I felt alone, but in a good way. Because I felt like I was away from everything else, away from school, away from stress. And that's when I was able to really like learn more about myself. Like I felt alone, but in a good way.
For sure. And I mean, friend groups, man, friend groups is complicated, I think. Now that I think about my experience, I went to school in San Francisco, but lived in the East Bay my whole life.
Hmm.
So a lot of my friends, at least the ones on like different sports teams and, kids that I feel like I was closer with than other kids, it never felt solidified because I didn't live in the city. Like anytime they'd be making plans for the weekends, I'd be like, I gotta go home. I gotta go across the bridge, kind of thing. Which I think for me gave me a different experience, but also probably gave me that observer kind of feel a lot of the time, and I think that's where I might have gotten it from too. But as far as friends go, do you feel like it's easier to make friends as a kid or as an adult?
So much easier as a kid. Like, cause
Really? Okay, tell me why. Tell me why.
like cause when you're kids, like you just do the simplest stuff. Like you're just playing video games, like going outside, playing basketball, like boom, you're friends.
Yeah.
But like as an adult, sometimes you're kind of like an interviewer where you're thinking, oh, is this person a great friend for me? Like what's his personality? What's yeah, like you think of all this stuff as an adult, and you're kind of like an interviewer, like, are you going to be a great friend for me? Can I count on you? All that stuff. And of course when you're an adult, like that's where your friendships get tested the most, like to see if that person is really going to be there for you or if you're really going to be there for them. So definitely easier as a kid.
No, I got you, man. I think for me, it's really just like my expectations are a lot lower, I guess, since I was a kid to an adult. Because as a kid, yeah, you become homies, and hopefully, like your families are cool with each other. Because like sometimes there's parents who are like, don't hang out with that person. Um, but after that, like you are pretty much homies until something might happen. But as an adult, when you talk about it, almost feels like an interview. I do feel like there is some sort of wall, right? Or like some kind of not front, but the way people who they really are versus how they want people to perceive them, I think is
Mhm.
very evident. I don't know, like especially in a group setting, I think people just are always trying to be like or trying to present that part of themselves that they want people to see. And then when we get into the one-on-one conversations, I feel like that's where people are more open to just show me who they really are, and vice versa. I think for me, I feel more comfortable in that way too. But I always find, I think it's more uncomfortable for adults to really talk like we are right now, because for whatever reason they think, you know, the way I'm going to think of them changes, or the people around them are going to change. So that's what's made it more difficult in my mind. And also I think the expectation of, like, if you're interviewing someone and you're like, okay, this person actually would be a dope friend, but then that person doesn't really have the time to be there as often, you know, be around, I think is also a challenge for me. That's how I be feeling sometimes. And, you know, for all my guests that have come on, and, you know, I definitely cherish the hour that we talk, and, you know, how we can really share our thoughts and opinions. But I also know after, you know, the episode, it's really hard for me to continue being a part of my guest's life, you know, or like be around. And for me, that makes me feel like I just need to be able to focus on the time that we did have. You know, I know it's like one of those things, like, be happy that it happened versus sad that it's over. But yeah, I think that's
for sure.
it's definitely like the approach or mindset that I have when it comes to just connecting with people. But for sure, man, I got you. Thank you for sharing. I know it's not always easy.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking this question. Like, this is like, I love when you ask these really deep, intricate questions, because like when you ask these questions, or when you answer them, like, you start to learn, or you really start to get to learn more about that person or about yourself. And I feel like that's time better spent. And that's why one-on-one conversations, I feel like, are more valuable than group settings.
I hear you. You ever like, for you, meeting a new person and then you want to like dig a little deeper, do you have like a go-to, I guess, question or something you kind of bring up for that person to feel a little more like, oh, maybe I can just relax? But you have that for yourself?
Ooh, there's this one question I like to ask people, just to like mess with them, like to just throw, like, cause like when I meet a new person, like, and I want to be friends with that person, like, my goal is to make them break character. Like, cause of course they have, like you said, they have this personality that they want to show people, but I just want people to show who they really are, just so that they feel more comfortable, just so that, you know, we're just chilling, we're just relaxing, we're just having a good time, you know? Okay, here's the question. Charmander, Squirtle, or Bulbasaur?
Oh, I got you. That's great.
I'm asking you right now.
Oh, I got you. I've always been a Charmander person, so I feel like I'm in the majority on that one. Like 70% of Pokemon players pick Charizard, and then I know
Charizard for life.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I replay it, I tried Squirtle before, but it wasn't the same. It wasn't the same for me. I was just really excited to get a dragon, you know, at the end of my evolutions. How about yourself? You Charizard too?
Charmander for life.
Oh,
like,
I got you.
Because I played Pokemon Blue a couple times, like with different starter Pokemons, and Charmander never fails. Like, that first battle with your rival,
Yep.
and that's like the first battle. Like, I always, whenever I pick Charizard, it never fails. Or Charmander, sorry.
Yeah,
when I pick Charmander.
No, I got you. Yeah, and I think that, what's it called? It's not the easiest either, right? Like, you get to Brock, and fire doesn't do well with rock, so you gotta like just keep tackling. And with it boosts that points for Charmander for sure, like the experience points, level them up.
Ooh, when you get to Misty, that's when it gets harder. When it gets to Misty.
Staryu? It's Staryu, right? Or
Staryu and Star. Both of them, Staryu and Starmie. Like, they're so hard to beat.
Yeah, especially if you pick Charmander first.
Especially if you pick Charmander, for sure.
But nah, yeah, you're right. Damn, that took me back, for sure. Did you ever do custom names for your Pokemon, or you just left them as Charmander? Because you know some people would name them after friends and stuff.
Not for Charmander because I felt like his name is already super cool as it is. And so
Mm.
I don't know. I never really gave my Pokemon nicknames like because their names were already pretty cool. So why not?
I got you, dog. Well, we made it, dog, to the end of the podcast. But before we do the closeout questions, I gotta
Mhm.
ask you to do this one part called the 34th mantra. All right.
Let's do it.
So, no, I'm messing up on the graphics, but it's all right.
I was like
uh,
hypnotized for a second.
that was supposed to come before, like when we started, but it's all good. All right, dog. So, if you don't mind, I'm gonna ask you to close your eyes. All right. Um, Imagine yourself in the forest, right? Like you just walking along, hiking. You find yourself like in the middle where it's just tall trees around you. You see the blue sky right above you. And you just want to yell. You feel like you want to express yourself. And this is the phrase that I want you to fill in, which is I am, I can, I will. I am blank, I can blank, I will blank. So give a thought on like what you would say. Let me know when you're ready, and then I'll take you to that screen.
like when you said, I am. Like there were so many things that I wanted to put in there. Like I am Phil. I am a singer. I am a mathematician. I'm an engineer. I'm this. I'm that. But all I can say is that I'm all of them.
You could,
Like,
hey,
without,
you could definitely just go with I am all of it. That's
I'm
so,
all of it.
that is all. That's totally fine
Or
with me.
I am limitless.
That is good. That's a good one too. That's one's good too.
So the next one is I can.
I can and I will. When you're ready to put them all three together, let me know because I do want to give you that the scenery when you
I
do them all
got
three
you.
at the same time. But feel free, talk it out, work through it. I can what?
I am limitless. I can. Does it have to be short or long?
It's up to you.
Like
No, it could be a long thing. It could be a short thing.
I am limitless. I can conquer the next obstacle. And I will. I will. I'm trying to find a way to phrase it.
Take your time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I am limitless. I can conquer the next obstacle, and I will.
Ooh, I see what you did there. I got you. I got you. All right. Now, say with a little more oomph. Here goes your screen and go.
Ready? I am limitless. I can conquer the next obstacle, and I will.
I got you, dog. If you ever need a reminder, now you got a little sound snippet of yourself saying that to yourself. Hopefully you could put it in a song maybe one day.
Yo, you just took me back to retreat.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Let's go.
For sure, doc. For sure. All right, man. We made it to the closeout, where I have 3 final questions for you. This next one's actually from my previous guest. So shout out to Kat. Maybe she's
Kat, what's up?
maybe she's asked you this question before, but if she hasn't, it is: if there is one trait of yours that can be seen as a negative and a positive, what would it be?
Perfectionism.
Straight up. Why is it a positive thing?
It's a positive thing because, like, I would define perfectionism as the closest to how I want to showcase myself. For example, my craft, like my music, for example. Perfectionism, I define as the closest, I would say the most accurate way my music portrays myself. And it's also a negative because sometimes I spend too much time on it. Sometimes I overthink on it. Sometimes I spend too much time on it, and that sometimes gets in the way of perfectionism. Like in the pursuit of perfectionism, sometimes it gets in the way.
I got you. Yeah, it almost becomes like this back and forth in your mind. Like, is this perfect? Yeah, it's perfect, but is it really? And then that conversation or that mindset just keeps bouncing back and forth. I think that's something that's helped me too. And we talked about it earlier as far as working on it. um yeah, with this podcast, with my previous music, like I felt like my music career didn't really take off because I was too much of like, it doesn't sound right, I can't put it out there. And a lot of people would be like, oh, where's the new music at? And I'm like, oh, I'm still working. I worked on it for like a decade and it never came out, right? And then, so with this podcast, definitely I had to just be like, okay, this episode isn't perfect, but let me just put it out there. And it took some time, and in my eyes, all my episodes are great, but I'm sure for like the regular consumer, they'd be like, oh yeah, we could totally notice the growth. We can totally notice like how the earlier episodes were missing some elements, but then they started coming along. And even in this one, like I don't think I'm hitting this perfectly, but you know, I have to be okay with it at the end of the day, because we did still produce this this conversation, this podcast. So I have to be happy with it in that sense. But you know, we all at our different stages of working through it, and yeah, perfectionism is one of them, man. Because everything we see is almost like what people want us to see as being perfect, right? Through social media and things that are presented to us, it's just like, oh, this was the finished product, and we want all of our stuff to look exactly like that, even though that might be a little unrealistic. I wonder if Michael Jackson was a perfectionist, because
yeah, definitely.
it seemed like all his songs were hitting for sure. But yeah, what's it called? You have anything else to add?
Like, I feel like that's an entire conversation. Like, that's an entirely separate conversation. Like, growth versus perfectionism. Like, do we want people to see our perfect side, or do we want to show people how much we've grown? Like, I feel like that's something. Like, tell me if this has happened to you too. Like, has it ever happened to you where you feel like you either want to show people your growth, or you want to show people your perfect side?
Dude, when it comes to social media posting, it's like, do I show something where I'm struggling, or do I just show when I'm happy? Because what I notice is when people show their struggles, people be hating, or like not even really like paying attention to it, not really engaging. It's like, oh, this person's in a bad mood, I shouldn't say anything. Versus like, you know, showing a great highlight of mine, and then people are more willing to say something. However, I've been on that other end where if all I see is highlights, I'm like, I feel less likely to engage, because like, oh, they're in a good spot in their life, I can't really like engage with that. So yeah, it really goes both ways for me. I'm just like, you know, still trying to figure out what the best approach. I think as I'm working through it, I'm choosing growth more than perfectionism, just because I do want really people to really see like there's not anything different in my life or what I'm trying to do. You know, I'm just a regular dude trying to talk to everybody, but people who don't see that, like they only see me posting clips all the time of my interviews, and like, oh, this guy did it, he made it, he's doing it. When I really want them to see how much I'm like in like setting up these calendar invites, but then every once in a while someone's not going to show up, or maybe I don't feel great that day, so I have to cancel or reschedule. People don't see that part, you know. People don't see like how much I procrastinate when it comes to like editing and stuff. It's that's not the beautiful sides, and I don't know if people want to see it if I post it on my social media. Like, hey guys, yeah, like if I record myself editing, I'm like, I don't want to do this. Yes, should I do this? Yes or no? Do I really want to invite that into my mind? And I'm like, so a lot of those thoughts go into my mind when it comes to like sharing. But at the end of the day, my page looks professional because in my mind, I really just want to showcase my guests. But if you see my personal page, that one's pretty more like all over the map, because I think for me, that's where like if people really care about seeing my growth, they'll go check out that page, right? But yeah, so that's how I've kind of found my approach to it. Extra work, but it's all good.
It's all good for sure. I want to tell you something that. Oh, sorry.
No. Yeah,
okay.
do it.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. So I want to tell you something that I haven't really told a lot of people. Like, so when I first wanted to do music, I thought music was a streamlined was a streamlined process. Like create the beat, write the song, record it, mix, master it, everything like goes smoothly. And I thought because that doesn't happen to me, I didn't think I was worthy enough to make music like that. But when I saw Jon Bellion, like, because Jon Bellion is also a really, really huge inspiration for me. When I saw, I'll show you later, but he has these making of videos for each of his songs. And he shows the writing process. He shows like the ups and downs. He shows the struggles on how he shows what he went through to create that song and how much of a struggle it was. That's when I realized that if he can do it, like he struggles, but if he can still persevere, then so can I. That's what really inspired me to get my music off the ground. And that's why now I'm doing this. And that's why I'm with you. I'm doing this super awesome interview. That's why all this stuff happened. Just because I saw those making of videos.
That's interesting, man. That makes me think of maybe I should show a making of a podcast, and maybe someone will be like, oh, okay, like they're facing the same struggles. That's interesting. You got to share with me your favorite making the song from Jon Bellion. But I do appreciate those for sure.
Of course, putting it on the list.
Right on, man. I know you got a list of things to share with me. And you got one more right now, which is, what would you like to ask the next guest on 34 Questions?
Ooh, that's a really good question. What I would like to ask the next guest is, let's see. That's a really good question.
Take your time.
I can feel this question like hot sauce.
I got you. I also like to answer this last question, so make it a good one.
Okay. So what I would like to ask is, what keeps you going? Like being a creative in general, it's tough. It's really tough. Like there are a lot of obstacles. There are a lot of times when people say no to you. There are a lot of times when someone else might get the opportunity that you wanted. There's sometimes when you might compare yourself, you might feel jealousy. But what keeps you going through all of that?
For sure, man. What keeps me going? So for me, like, I slowed down with music, right? I tried to do a clothing brand. I slowed down on that. And I've ended up with this podcast, which I feel like is the thing for the rest of my life that I would pursue, or like not pursue, but just continue creating the space where people can talk one-on-one and have good conversation that is a little bit random sometimes, depending on the wheel. You talked about comparisons. You talked about just having all the obstacles that kind of keep creatives from creating, right? I think with me, the first two, right, music and the clothing brand, the things that I didn't like about it felt too wrapped up in my ego. Like I started introducing myself as, oh, hi, I'm Jan. By the way, I'm also the creator of Hella Hungry, or, oh, I'm Jan, but I also have a rapping name here. Check out my music. So those two things really turned me off at a certain point. Like with music, I held on to that too long, I think. With the clothing brand, I was able to kind of realize it quicker, thankfully, than the music. And then with the podcast, I think I've made something where I feel comfortable saying and really owning that it's not about me. And I think that's helped me propel or stay focused on it, because every time I work on it, I believe I'm working on it not just for myself, but for like yourself, for you, Phil, and for my previous guests, and for anyone else that's thinking about coming on. I really think like, okay, this is the work I'm doing that's for the world, or like my community, the community. And I think that's what separates the two other things that I had to drop versus this one thing I'm holding, and I know for myself it's forever. is that it's not about me. And that's what keeps me going. It's just thinking about like, if I stop doing this, then I'm stopping my service to the world, you know? It's like, but if I keep on going, then I feel like I'm just continually giving back to the universe. And I hope people can see it. I hope people, you know, feel it when they're on the show and when people listen to it, that even though I open up about my opinions, I answer some questions, I really don't want it to be about me. And that thought, and I guess that virtue, or whatever you want to call value, that's what keeps me going. Yeah, man.
I
Thank you,
definitely
Phil.
feel it.
Yeah.
I definitely feel it for sure.
Right
Like
on.
this, like I love what you're doing with this podcast and how you're having these awesome conversations with other artists, with other creatives. I saw Kat and Vince on here. Like they're homies. Like I just love what you're doing here. I love how you're creating this safe space for people to just express themselves. This feels more like a therapy session than a podcast interview, for sure.
Right on, Phil. I mean, I have people who've mentioned that before, and that really warms my heart, because, you know, it makes me feel like, cool. I think, you know, my attempt to understand the world, people feel that, and they're like, this guy is trying to understand me right now. And that's what I think is the beautiful thing. And I hope my listeners feel that same way too. Like whoever's listening makes me think, oh, okay, there's someone out there that finds this as valuable, right? Like you find this valuable. You probably heard Vince and Kat's stuff. But yeah, it's like, it's because you care about them as people. You kind of want to get to know them even more than maybe the chance that you've gotten already to this point. And that's what I really hope. I hope people can listen to episodes where maybe they knew somebody, you know, from an arm's length, but don't really know them that well. And after they hear the podcast, they're like, oh snap, that's how they really are. And next time you guys see each other, it's like you could bring up something that you heard on the podcast, and it'd be like having that deeper conversation, but it was sparked from just hearing it on a podcast. So yeah, man. Well, I definitely appreciate the kind words. Those are the kind of things that keep me going, for sure.
Of course. Like, oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
Like building on to what you were saying about ego versus doing it for others, like that hit me pretty hard, for sure. Because when I first started music, I wanted to do it just to prove that I can do it. Like it was definitely an ego thing for me at first, but then later on I learned that it's not about me, it's not about other people, it's just about the music. It's about us being instruments of nature, in Michael Jackson's words. Like he wrote Billie Jean by just letting the song write itself. Like because the music that now I create now, it's not about me, it's just about me communicating the works of nature. Like as musicians, creatives, like anybody who's a creative, we're all just instruments of nature. We're just expressing in our own language the beauty and complexity of nature. And once I realized that, once I let go of most of my ego, at least,
it's tough.
It's tough, for sure.
Yeah.
But like once I let go of most of it, that's when I felt more content with making music. And that's why I felt like I can impact people's lives by, you know, being that communicative force of nature, you know?
Nah, for sure, man. I think everyone's kind of looking for someone to express in a certain way. Like I can't find those words. And I mentioned earlier, like I listened to a song and I'm like, damn, I could have wrote that. And it just feels good to know there's somebody that out there that can put it in a way that just hella resonates with me. And for other folks, I'm sure your music are hitting people in a certain way as well. And I'm sure it's going to be hitting me sooner than later. I just haven't had a chance to check it out yet, but nah, man, like keep doing yourself, like keep doing you. And like, if you ever have those moments, just, I think for me, music has never left. Like I still write here and there. It's just now I don't have that expectation or that goal for myself. Like, oh, I need to write this song so I can, you know, make it, it can supplement me, or like, it can, what's the word I'm thinking of?
can
sustain
get
me. Yeah,
sustain. Yes.
yeah. I'm not making music to sustain myself as far as monetary, but I do make music just to express myself. I'll type in like something type beat, usually a J. Cole type beat, and then I'll try to do that a little bit, and maybe I'll get down 4 bars, maybe 16 bars. But either way, like it feels really good for me just to go through that process because it's something I've been doing since I was 12. And if I don't have that, or if I decide to just let that go, I know it's probably going to spill into other parts of my life. And I'm like, fuck, I need to go back and write something or listen to a beat and just try to make a flow, even if it's been the same. Like a big reason why I stopped writing or stopped pursuing it, because I felt like the experience I was writing about was the same one. When I was 12 to when I was 25, it was all about chilling, trying to come up from nothing to becoming something, or it was about some girl. So after those 3, just keep rotating. In my mind, it's like I need to do something different with my life. So when I come back to music, it could be something different than the same things over and over again. But yeah, man.
But it's funny. Oh, sorry. But it's funny you mentioned that, because like tell me if you feel this, like as a creative, like even if you, like for the most part, you took a break from rapping, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you feel that creative personality inside you, like knocking on that door. Like you feel like it's you feel like no matter what you do, you'll never be able to let go of that creativity. It's always going to be, at least in the back of your head, telling you that, like your creative side telling you that I want to get out, I want to feel the fresh air.
Yeah.
I feel like as creatives, like no matter what phase of life we go through, that creativity will never go away. Like I feel like it's always going to be there for us. It's always going to be there to help us express ourselves. I feel like that creativity is never going to go away from us.
No doubt, man. I don't think ever. And like personally for me, if I'm not writing a song, if I'm not editing or trying to like improve the podcast, or I'm gonna try to be making some kind of design, like I spent a lot of my money on all these different technologies just so I can keep creating in very different ways. And like I know for my girl, she's like, how do you, like, why do you have to do that? Or like, why do you have to buy an iPad just to draw if that's not your main thing? But it's like, damn, like it's something that I enjoy doing, and it helps that creative part of myself get that fresh air. Because if it's all editing or if it's all music, then it doesn't feel like, at a certain point it's like, damn, I need to switch it up, I need to be creative in a different way. And then forgot the other part, but it sounded like you got something to say.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, but that's probably the main reason why artists, like, they always switch up their flow, because they always want to try something different. Like for example, a lot of people listen to Drake. They listen to how he was before versus how he is now. Like people say they like the old Drake, or they miss the old Drake, or they love the new Drake. But like, no, it's just him like trying to switch up his creative juices, him trying to stay creative, him just expressing like different parts of his life, like, and that's what you do too. You express your creativity in different ways. You're always trying to find new ways to express yourself, and that's what I love.
No, for sure, man. And yeah, anyone that's too hard on any artist, like I think we all kind of say that, right? Like, oh, I miss the old so and so. Like before Kanye became very polarizing, or even more so polarizing, that's the phrase everyone asked or said about Kanye. Is like, give me that soulful Kanye, the first 3 albums. But and that's why I think I always love an artist's first album. We talked about having the however many years it took to get to that point, because after that, right, people want to change, people want to try something different. And as the fan or the consumer of the art, it's like we really don't have anything, like there's not a lot for us to say if an artist decides to do that. They shouldn't be making music for us. Hopefully they're making music for themselves, and all of us kind of feel like we're growing or changing with them. I think I mentioned J. Cole earlier. That's one of the artists for me where I felt like his growth from mixtape to mainstream mainstream albums to where he is now, is like a guy that I feel like I would relate to. You know, he's just someone who, I don't know if you really follow his musical story, but it was like, you know, mixtape, underground rapper coming up, studio album, tried to get a little buzz, but it didn't really pop off. A lot of his real fans were like, oh, he's changed, he's not the same anymore. But then he acknowledges that in the next couple studio albums, saying like, this is you know, it's not who I really want to be, but because of the path I was on, that's the kind of music I had to make. And then at this point, he's all like, I'm gonna pick and choose what I want to make, but I'm also, you know, starting my own label up so I could put artists up that are, you know, would want to avoid the shit that I went through. So that whole journey for J. Cole, I'm like, dog, we could be homies. I wish, you know, we could have met at some point. But yeah, and as far as making friends, and I'm tying everything we talked about into this.
Like, it's all connected.
It is, dog. It is. But making friends, I can't imagine what it's like making friends as a celebrity. You know, like, who can you really trust? Who can you really like think that they don't have any motive for because you have a name, because you have some clout? And I think even in the music industry, I don't know if you ever had to, you know, come across that kind of feeling where like you see someone you admire and you want to go up to them and just be like, hey, what's up? Want to say, give you your props or whatever. And then for that person receiving the love, maybe they're already jaded by however many fake people have approached them, but they kind of shut you down real fast and like, oh, cool, thanks. Not really like give you enough time to like build a connection, because so many people have already, you know, maybe jaded their perception of like a stranger coming to them. And that's why I can't ask for help sometimes. If I know somebody that's like already established and I'm like, I can't ask you to do me a favor and give me a shout out, because that makes me feel like I'm just another person that has an agenda. And even though he help a lot. Yeah, it sucks, man. It really sucks.
Yeah, that for sure is the main reason why sometimes like I like, especially in music, like that's why sometimes I'm afraid to ask other artists to collab, like especially if I know that they have so much more talent or so much more like cloud, like cloud, of course. Like that's why sometimes I'm afraid to like ask people to collab. But yeah, that hit hard.
Nah, I got you, man. And yeah, if you're over to it, definitely come back for a part 2. And we could definitely, you know, dig in a little bit deeper. We only got to 3 questions of the wheel, so we got plenty more to go. But
I'm done to schedule it right now.
I got you. Sometime in April. I'll shoot that to you when it opens up. But
I got you.
What's it called? Yes. We made it to the last question of the podcast, man, which is 100, 200, 300 years from now, your descendants are watching this video. What would you like to tell them?
I would like to tell them, this is your ancestor, what's up? But I would like to tell them, like, no matter what era you live in, like no matter what time zone you're in, or like no matter what century you're in, just be yourself and just work hard for what you have. Like no matter what era, that's always going to be like the best timeless advice that I can give my ancestors, my descendants, of course. Like, just if you work hard enough and you work smart enough and you believe in your own skill and your own if you believe in your own skill and your own craft and your own wanting or need to do what you want, then it's going to come to you. It might not come to you like at the time that you expect it, but it's going to come to you. All you have to do is focus on working on what you love doing, and so it doesn't matter like how social media works, doesn't matter what algorithm is in place, it's going to attract a lot of people. But don't think about it attracting a lot of people. Just focus on doing it because you love doing it.
I hear you, dog. They hear you. And any last things you'd like to add before we head out of here?
What else can I add? What else can I add except follow this guy? Oh, Yeah.
Well,
Follow this guy. Follow Jan. Follow 34. Like this guy. This is not a regular interview, guys. This is more like a deep conversation. Like I feel like we can have like some alcohol or something or some coffee over this. Like this guy just wants to get to know the artists, the creatives. He just wants to shed a light on them, and that I really love. I really love being here. I really love that you gave me this opportunity to come on your podcast. You know, just have a conversation and whatnot, and I really appreciate it. I can't thank you enough.
thank you, Phil. And where can people find your music, man? Go out there and plug yourself, dog.
I got you. So my music is at Spotify and all other platforms under the name Phil Q. That's PHIL space Q. And my Instagram, as well as all my other social media handles, are under RNB Phil. That's spelled R, N as in night, B, PHIL. And check out my upcoming EP, Supernova, April 14th.
Supernova, the single's out though, right? Or not yet?
Oh, the single is going to come out. Single along with the rest of the EP is coming out on April 14th.
Gotcha.
The first
Damn.
two,
You gotta wait a little bit. Go ahead.
just a little bit more, but like just a little bit more. Like the first two singles, Heaven and Dream, they're already out, and everyone's loving it, man. Check it out.
All right, man. Will do. Thank you, Phil, again for stopping by. I want to thank the folks out there for tuning in. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watching on YouTube, definitely appreciate your time as well. Remember to reach out, reach forward. As always, much love, and we'll catch you guys next time on 34 Questions. Peace. And it'll fade out from there.